Okay, I am Mark Webb, and I'm here representing GOTO. I think I know most of the people here. There's a few new faces, but if we have not met, glad to meet you. In keeping with the LIPS spirit, I'm not going to talk very much specifically about GOTO star projectors. I will say they are excellent, and if you are interested, contact me and we can talk about what GOTO can do for you. Or not, even if you're just in the planning or the curious stage, let's talk about it because it's much better to be informed than to just kind of muddle through once you are actually able to renovate your planetarium. Last year, GOTO came out with a new star projector. This is the commercial part, called the Ethereos. It is specifically designed for domes 4 to 12 meters or up to about 40 feet. And I like to think of it as the modern version of the Spitz A3 is a course for smaller planetariums. It is completely manual, but it is designed to be used in a hybrid situation. We've partnered with ENS, and we can hybridize Ethereos with Digistar 7. If you're interested in that or interested in knowing more, give me a shout. But what I'm really here to talk about today is warming up your audience. One of the most important parts of any planetarium presentation is the very few first moments when you start. That is when you have the opportunity to grab your audience's attention and bring them along on an incredible journey. But what we often forget is that we think the show starts when we take the lights down and hit a couple of buttons. But to the audience, it has started much before then, and their expectations, which they have formed, may not really be very correct. So this is a perfect opportunity at this very first moment of the show, or even before the show starts, as the audience is coming in, to kind of find out what their expectations are, and then kind of shape that to what you would like them to be. So a lot of people coming in are not going to be familiar with the planetarium environment, and they need to become familiar with what this is going to be. I mean, you have to realize that even if they are familiar with a planetarium, you are a surprise to them. They weren't expecting you to be there. They don't know who you are. So you need to kind of welcome them in a way that makes them feel like this is where they are supposed to be. They may have unrealistic expectations. They may, even though it's the middle of the day, they expect the roof to open and be able to, see the stars up in the sky. All kinds of things that can happen. So if you can kind of get an idea of where the audience is at, that puts you that much more ahead. Also, when it's a live presentation, they need to understand that almost everybody coming in, unless they're a regular customer of yours, almost everybody will be thinking they're going to see a movie. And they're in that sort of passive mindset. I can just sit here quietly until the movie starts, and then I can just chill out. But that's not what we want from them. We want them to be engaged on a much more active mental level. Hopefully, we want them to participate and interact with us as well. So this is a really good opportunity to get that back and forth dialogue going. While the lights are still on, you can, ask people simple questions, where are you from? That kind of thing. I also like when people use this sort of pre-show time to kind of set the stage for question and response. So Anne Bragg, who's an excellent educator in Marietta, Ohio, does this thing where she's got some objects up on the sky, partially dimmed, and she, the audience, if they can tell her which ones are planets and which ones are not. And then she just holds and guides the pointer based on where they're telling her to point. And by the time that activity is over, they're dark adapted and they're already actively involved in what's going on the screen. So expectations, fantastic place to kind of grab your audiences in question. The environment, a lot of people this is an unusual room for people. It's normal for us, but it's a really strange. So talk about that, get them involved. What does it remind them of? Why do they think it is shaped the way that it is? And then you can kind of talk to them a little bit and sort of roll that into where it's going and what they might expect. The technology. I think this is really important. If you have an optical machine, it's there in the middle of the room and people have zero understanding of what's going on. If you're using full dome, it's kind of a similar thing. People are unsure, how does this happen? Why is it happening? So, talk about the technology. And I, especially in a live show, I like to point out that this is live and things go wrong. And that if things go wrong, I'm just going to let you know that that's what's happening. And that's what technology is about. And just being relaxed about that can save you from that awful moment where everything is going great and then something doesn't work. You're just, frantically trying to fix whatever it is and remain talking at the same time. If it happens, you can just go like, I told you this was a live show and that something could go wrong. So let me fix it and we'll get going. So, and then that gives them a feeling that like I'm in this with you. It's not you and them, it's you and them together. Pre-show is often a good place to sort of determine where your knowledge depth of your audience is. If you're dealing with a school group, you already have a pretty good idea. You can talk to the teacher beforehand, get an idea of what they've been doing in class, and go with that. But if you've got a public show on a Saturday afternoon, who knows? It could be anything. You could have astrophysicists in there. You might have people who don't know that, the sun is not a planet. So this is a good time to kind of get to an idea of where people are in terms of their understanding, and then very nicely sort of shape that in the way that you would like it to go. Dark adaptation is also very important. If you can get an audience to sit in the complete darkness for a little while before you turn on the stars, that is ideal. It doesn't work for every show, but when they get that stars coming on, it's a wow moment for them, and it's very easy to kind of reel them in at that point if they've had that sort of beautiful first exposure. And also, they're going to need to be dark adapted to talk about what you do. So, allow time for that to happen. And finally, the last thing I thought of, I'm sure this list is not complete, there's got to be more, but you want to use this as an opportunity to transition their behavior into what you would like it to be for your presentation. So if you're looking for a interactive presentation, you should set that up at the very beginning. The folks from Boulder this morning were great with that, with their jar of Skittles, and that is sort of like a perfect kind of activity to kind of get people to be involved and having fun inside your show. So I put out on the internet last fall, maybe, or no, it would have been earlier this year, probably in the spring, asking people what they like to do at the beginning of shows. So I want to do a few of those. Here's Marco. He likes to take young kids, ask them what colors they prefer, and then he changes the colors based on what the kids are saying, so that he can end up on very low red light conditions. He's doing that dark adaptation, but involving them at the same time. Chenille uses the portal of the space station as a walk-in video, but most importantly, he always asks his audience, what is it that they see? He's getting them actively involved, observing, and then reporting those observations. Christian Greer uses a sort of well, he doesn't present that much anymore, but April taught him how to use the laser pointer to get the kids to lean way back, which changes their behavior. And once they're doing that and they're not talking, then she can jump in and grab control of the room. You can use cell phones to do a light pollution demo, and then make sure that the phones are turned off by kind of tricking the audience into following your instructions to do that. Andy likes to have a discussion with people about what they think the rules of the planetarium are, and he makes a new set of rules for each group that way. Katie plays a little game with them, has them follow the red dot, her laser pointer, and then keeps going until they're giggling and they're having fun. Carolyn Collins, so she would start with an audience Q&A, find out their depth of knowledge, quizzing the teacher, so forth. And finally, Mike kind of gives an introduction that he sort of explains the technology and does, I like to do this too. He gets the audience away from thinking about the movie paradigm, the show paradigm, and thinking about the activity paradigm instead. So he starts out with a sort of normal video screen, but then expands it until it fills the entire dome, which is a pretty spectacular thing. And that sort of causes a cognitive shift in the audience that, oh, this is different. So now I'm experiencing something much more than before. So I'm going to stop sharing here and ask if there are any people here who would like to share what they like to do to start a show. I know, Brian, you responded to the original thing, but anybody, just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, Mark, I've got a question. This is Ken.
Hi, Ken.
The last example you talked about with the image going from 16:9 to full dome. I would love to know what images he's using that morph that way.
I don't know. I suspect what he does is that he starts with a full dome image of what he would like, and then he vignettes that down to the 16:9, and then once the audience is in there, runs it in reverse to sort of expose the whole dome. I will put my email address in the chat. I'd love to talk to you about the future of your planetarium and what your plans are. even if those plans are more dreams than plans at this point. It's not too early to kind of start on this process. So I'd like to thank you for listening and being attentive, and we'll continue to chat.
Right.
Um,
Thanks again, Mark. Yay.
Yeah. Thanks.
I was going to contribute a show starter I do when we're talking about exploration, no matter where we're going to go that day, whether it's Mars or Saturn or whatever. I put a box in the middle of the planetarium, and I put my hand in the box. And as I'm doing it, I tell the kids, okay, I'm putting my hand in this box, so it's safe in here. This is nothing dangerous. I put it back out. And then I say, now let's suppose your teachers and I, usually for public school groups, your teachers and I are going to walk out of this planetarium, shut the door behind us, and this guy back here hears us talking down the hall, and he can hear us fading away. Let me ask you all an honest question. While we're gone, how many of you are going to be up in here looking inside this box to find out what it is? And usually after 5 or 10 seconds, hands start going up, and eventually you get most of the hands up, because the kids, I tell them, go ahead and be truthful. Nobody's going to care. This is not you're not going to get punished for this. So sin bravely, and most of them will raise their hands, and then you tell them what's in the box, of course. And you also talk about curiosity, and that is the major urge for exploration. And then we launch off into whatever program we're doing, but that kind of sets the mood for them and lets them know we're going to be exploring, and we're probably going to have some fun while we're doing it. So.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what's happening. You're kind of setting this up, they're almost being a little bit naughty. They're going to do something you don't know about while you're out of the room, even though that's just a construct that you planted in there. So they're already kind of engaged, but they're engaged in a way that you're controlling too. And you are sort of pointing out that they are curious about this. So yeah, that's great. And yeah, that's very original. I've not heard that before. That's fantastic, Ken.
I can throw in a experience, I suppose, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
I did undo my mic. This was at the Willard Smith, and it was so well done by one of my planetarium presenters. I was never as good at this as he was, but I always admired how he would do it. This dome has a single row of concentric seats, so everyone is sitting next to each other. And what he would do is, fairly close to the top of the show, he would get to a point where the sun had set, and he would point out something in the sky, and then he would have the visitors go and talk to each other. He would have a moment where he said, talk to somebody you don't know. You're sitting next to people right now you don't know. What do you think that is? And I'll give you a couple minutes. And he had people engage in a conversation between each other and then bring it back to the planetarium. And he was so good at facilitating the audience doing a presentation for each other that was very impressive.
Yeah, I think when you can get that kind of involvement with the audience, you're pretty much home free. That's a really great way to kind of get the whole thing across, is to have them do it themselves. Yeah, I love that.
I would also, in order to help me judge an audience, I'll go through a series of yes/no questions near the top of the show, but I'll have the lights down already. So I'll have people slap their knee, drum their knees to say yes. Everybody who wants to go to Mars, drum your knees kind of thing. And that got people, broke the ice of it's okay to make noise in here and to shout things out. And it also gave me as a presenter the opportunity to judge how interactive the audience was going to be. So if I only get a couple of, I'm like, okay, you're going to be that audience. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I did see a show one time with one of my presenters who liked to do the whole presentation as a series of question and answers, but it was a really small group. There was only about 9 people and only one of them was a child. And so his question and answer thing was just falling flat until eventually the child answered a question. And he very, very astutely just went and sat down next to the child and did the whole rest of the show as a question and answer with the child. And everybody loved it.